Hi, how's everyone? Author of The Project Manager, Life as a Project, and The Consummate Communicator, Character Traits of True Professionals. This is such a great day. We are featuring 24 authors in 12 hours. It is pretty phenomenal. We are here on Veterans Day, and as a Veterans Day salute, I've tried to get as many veterans as possible, as well as featuring Free Agent Press, because this is a veteran-owned business from James Woosley, who's going to be closing out and talking to me. Such a great day. And this book, Leo Kane, Journey Through the Veil, I read parts of this book. I have to admit I haven't quite finished it yet. It is a super easy read. It's designed for young adults. And when you read it, I call it a cross between Narnia and Harry Potter. So I just think it's fun, it's magical, and it's full of whimsy. But what you're going to find out today is all the magic and whimsy and how it was created. And the story behind it is not as whimsical. And I am here with an Air Force veteran, with Michael Sloan. And Michael, I'd like to start off first with, let's talk about your book. Let's talk about Leo Kane, the characters, and kind of how you developed and crafted your book.
No, yeah, of course. And again, thank you. This is my second time live with you, and this is absolutely amazing. When you invited me back, I was like, oh my gosh, on Veterans Day? Heck yeah. So thank you so much once again. So you said, how did I start crafting it, correct? Okay. So I had always wanted to write, and, I've always heard that, hey, the hardest thing to do is start, right? You just need to put pen to paper, start banging out on the keyboard, anything, just get ideas down. And, watching some of the other veterans, I've heard the same thing multiple times, and I can't stress that enough to people, is just start. So I was deployed, I was in Afghanistan, and, it's one of those things that something I've always wanted to do. When you're deployed, depending on your job, of course, you travel around a lot. You could be in the field, be on planes, be on helicopters, et cetera, et cetera. I was traveling a lot, going from fob to fob, checking on people. During my very last deployment.
So, Michael, I'm going to interrupt you real quick.
Oh,
just for any civilians in our audience, can you explain what a fob is and what that means to the audience?
Oh, yeah. Oh, my gosh. I'm so sorry. Forward operating base. So there's, some main bases overseas in Afghanistan, and there's also some smaller ones. So what I would do is I was at Bagram, which is a really large base, and I would go from there, take helicopter, every once in a while a plane, depending on how far it was, to go check on the airmen, the other Air Force, because my last position when I was a chief for this deployment, I've been on several, but for this one, it was making sure the welfare of the airmen. It didn't matter if you were an airman, like a private in the Army, or if you were all the way up to like a colonel, which is a pretty high-ranking officer. They were all working for either the Army or NATO. And of course, Air Force doesn't speak Army very well. Army doesn't speak Air Force very well. Same thing goes with a lot of the different branches of service. So my job was to make sure that I would go talk with the sergeant majors or the Army colonels that were in charge and make sure that, one, that the airmen were doing the right thing. Like I said, it didn't matter if you were an officer or enlisted. But two, I would also talk with the airmen, again, officer or enlisted, to make sure they understood what was needed by the Army. And of course, two different cultures. Sometimes a sergeant major would want an airman to go do something that he or she may have not been trained in, but in the Army, it's common. Everybody's trained in it. So, just leveling the playing field and making sure everybody is taking care of each other safely. I was talking to doctors. I was talking to, gunners on helicopters. I mean, the whole gamut. And, luckily, while I was there, not a single one of our folks was severely injured. So I loved going out and listening to their stories and, bringing their stories back and telling other people. And it's another one of those things that the more you hear it, the more you want to write. And that was one of the reasons that I actually wanted to start. And this is going to sound totally counterintuitive from what I just said. I could start writing down a lot of their stories, and then I would think about it at night, and I wouldn't sleep. Um, the different things that are going on, or I could start writing something completely different, a fantasy, something I've been thinking about for years, but just not knowing how to start. So I took that road. I started writing, a young adult novel, which, I'm not a young adult, but it's a guilty pleasure. I still love reading them. So I decided to just start writing. And it was, it took my mind off of everything that was worrying me. I'd wake up in the morning and, hit the ground running, get my coffee, and boom, out there just jobbing it. But then after you're out there for, 12, 16 hours a day, you've got your workout in, you've already eaten dinner. It's like, well, now what? I could go out and, catch a movie because, there were, small tents and sometimes, fairly large tents that were showing movies from APs and different organizations. Or I could, take the time and write. And I decided to take the time to write. So that's how it all started. And this last one, I was over there for 8 months, and I started this journey about 2 months into it. And by the time I finished, it was, within weeks of going home. So I sent it all home, and, I finished up while I was back in the States, with the editing and the covers and all that type of thing.
So we've talked before. Can you tell a little bit about the character development and how you came up with Leo, and then also some of his sidekicks, which I believe one of them is very personal to you?
Yes. So Leo is the main character, and the way I developed him is I just wanted an average kid, somebody everybody could relate to. He's had some hardships growing up in his life, nothing too dramatic, but something that a lot of people can relate to, that caused a little bit of strife in his life. And I wanted to show that he could rise above and, discover that he's something that he never knew. So in this case, he finds out that he's a knight from a land that is not part of this earth. And it's his heritage, it's his lineage. So Leo, I tried to make him somebody, like I said, everybody could relate to. And I wanted to make it that children would be able to read it and, not be scared. I'm not a big fan of having young adult novels be extremely graphic or, something like that. I want it to be, if a parent read it, they'd be okay with, their, fourth grader reading it. So that's how Leo was developed. Some of the sidekicks, the one that very personal to me that you were saying is she belongs to the world, the realm that Leo enters. Her name is Angel Diana. My daughter is Angeline Diana. And I made Angel both, I guess, mentally and physically close to my daughter. So she is, dark skinned, dark haired, very pretty young lady, but she's also very caring. She would basically not hurt a fly. In the story, you can see that where, she treats plants and trees with respect. She treats the animals, the fantastic beasts that are in this world, with respect. So I based Angel off of Angeline. I know, big stretch on the name, right? But to me, it just was very personal. A lot of the other characters were protectors of Leo, and I based them on, maybe some of the mentors that I've had growing up in the Air Force. In the military, we try to mentor each other to basically build independent yet strong and working as a team men and women. And when you come in, a lot of folks they don't get that teamwork aspect, but you latch onto a mentor and then you learn the team. So it's not all about yourself, it's taking care of others. And, in the book, I've got Lady Sibel. She's the ruler of the realm. She is taking care of everybody. I have one of the individuals that Leo becomes very good friends with. He's a very interesting character, Sharon. I based him off of one of my mentors too, that he's very patient, but he's going to go out and get the job done. He's, hey, if this needs to be done, all right, let's go do it. And, here's why we did it. And, here's what we can do better next time. So that's basically a rough idea of how I came up with these characters, just from what I was, experiencing and what I've experienced in my 24 and a half years in the military.
And how did you develop these different realms as you describe them in your book?
Okay, so I wanted to make sure that the first realm that Leo enters, it's just a fantastic world. It's someplace that you would never see on Earth. And I wanted it to be over the top, yet still a little bit believable. So that way people can immerse themselves into it. And then from that realm, we go into another realm. And that one's a little bit darker. Still nothing that, young adults want to be able to handle, even children want to be able to handle. But for I guess, the physical characteristics of it, I was in the desert when I wrote this. So as I was walking through the desert, I thought, man, a lot of people don't experience, walking around in Afghanistan, walking around in certain places of Iraq, even Qatar or Kuwait. So I based a lot of the landscape off of that. And then driving around in certain areas, we are very fortunate in the United States. So some of the structures in the other realm, I based off of the structures that I saw. It's not word for word and not exact. In fact, I took quite a few liberties and probably made it a lot worse than some of the stuff that I saw structure-wise and, characteristically wise of that land. But that's how I came up with, the land where Leo's nemesis resides and comes from. So yeah, that's how I was creating the worlds. The first one was, hey, you know what? I want something that's just going to be magical, everybody loves. And the second one is, this is a little bit different. It's not to say that living in the desert or anything like that is, bad. It's just something not a lot of people tried to put that on paper.
So I really appreciate your sharing that. One of the things I want to take a break for real quick is to just make sure everybody's aware that today my books, The Project Manager, Life is a Project, as well as my book, The Consummate Communicator, Character Traits of True Professionals. That book, the forward is by Admiral James Trevitas, who is a retired naval admiral. For those that are familiar with him, who was both in the U.S. He was my commander in the U.S. European Command, while also serving as a SACEUR for NATO, the Supreme Allied Commander. And I took the character traits of true professionals and I put it into a civilian setting. So hopefully it's relatable. Those are available for free Kindle download today. And then anybody who wants to buy a print book, 10% of all proceeds today for the print book is going to go to the Wounded Warrior Project. And I just put the Wounded Warrior Project link into the chats. And I want to open up to that, Michael, to kind of talk about your book, how people can purchase your book or any other information on promotional, and also maybe even say when you think the next book might be coming out.
Okay, no problem. And regarding Amy's books, I did read both of yours. And I know a lot of them are centered around project management, which a lot of you don't know, but I'm a project manager as well. Come from a cybersecurity and project management background. So I read your books, and honestly, you do not have to be from a project management background the way you wrote them to get something out of these books. You're going to learn, hey, life is a project. And the consummate communicator, oh my gosh, yes. You don't have to have the background to get it. And I love that about the way you wrote those. So thank you for that.
Thank you, Michael. I'm definitely blushing.
So for mine, I am an independent author. So right now, everything is available on Amazon in print and also in, ebook. Eventually, I do want to do an Audible because I love Audibles. I really do. That's another one of my guilty pleasures. I will take road trips and I will throw on a good Angie Fox book through an Audible, and 8 hours later I'm through the book and I'm through the trip. It's awesome. So I want to share that with other people through my book. I also made sure that I got my own ISBN number and put everything out on other areas other than Amazon. So that way, if you go to a Barnes & Noble, if you go to a Books A Million, if you go to a mom and pop bookstore, if you get the ISBN number, I can't believe I don't have it right here in front of me to share with everybody. I guess I could put it in the chat later. But ask for this ISBN number. There you go. um, Ask for that ISBN number at any bookstore, and they will be able to order it for you. So it's not exclusively to Amazon. You can get it in a brick and mortar store as well.
And I believe you have one brick and mortar store distributor at this point?
Yes, one in Ohio. So they texted me and, said, well, it was my family that went up there in Ohio and said, hey, do you want to start carrying this? And so they have, which is great. As for when the next book is coming out, it's funny. I've got my notebook right here that I jot down ideas. So right now I have only about 5 chapters down, but I've got multiple chapters, written out in longhand and notes. So I don't write them all in longhand. I just take down my ideas in longhand, and then I'll just jam them out, and then ideas will start flowing until I get a chapter done. Sometimes I, just start typing and like, oh my gosh, this is way too long. I got to cut this, and then all of a sudden it becomes 2 chapters. So my goal is to have something ready for my editor, Spilled Red Ink. I want to have something ready for her by hopefully October of next year. And, the editing process takes a little bit longer. And if you remember right, the last time we talked, I said I'd hope to have it published by November. But, the more I get into it, and I don't want to rush. So I'm hoping to get it to my editor by October timeframe, and then we can go through things. So I'm really, really hoping it comes out at the end of 21. But if it ends up being at the very beginning of 2022 or the spring of 22, I'm okay with that, because I want to put out a quality product for everybody, because I have been getting some amazing reviews. In fact, what you just said, Harry Potter meets Narnia. Can I use that? I mean, I really would like to.
Oh, certainly. And if you would
awesome.
like, I could definitely make a recommendation on the book. I'll make sure I go into Amazon and put that down, because it's really. Are you on Goodreads?
Yes, I am. Yes.
You know what? I'll do a Goodreads for you. And,
wonderful.
I love the whimsy, and I love when you go into the magical world. And now we're going to go into a place that's not magical, that you and I have talked about in preparation for today. And I've spoken with several of the other authors today, and one of the themes have been resiliency. It started this morning with Todd Simmons, who I know that you're acquainted with and friends with. And when you think about resiliency and where you were in this dark place, you were in Afghanistan, you're in a war zone, you were in a place where, a lot of things happened on not the most positive note, and you decided to write in order to cope. And you shared some of your personal journey with me. And I know we have so many veterans out there today who are listening. We celebrate Veterans Day. We celebrate and honor the service that people had, but so many people, they come back with wounded, not just the wounds that we see, but the wounds that we don't. And I was wondering if you wouldn't mind sharing a little bit of that with us, Michael.
Yeah. Like I said, talking with other folks that are out there, we want to just talk. I think it's very important to talk to friends, talk to strangers, get your story out there, just talk about anything. So this last deployment was my 7th deployment, but I was talking to friends who I feel that are lifelong friends now, that they were on their 15th, their 20th deployment. Like I said, some of them were, doctors. They'd seen things that, shouldn't happen to the human body. I've made friends with, folks from the Special Operations Command that, hey, they've had to go out and, save lives. They've seen lives taken, not just in this past deployment, but in other deployments. And listening to those stories, it really gets you. It does so much. And even before that, when I was in, Iraq, and hearing other stories, I've been very lucky. I was support my entire career, but support, I would also go out, and a lot of support people don't get to do that. Doing convoys, hopping on helicopters, stuff like that. So I didn't see anything extremely upsetting, but hearing the stories of folks that did see extremely upsetting things, and seeing the way some people are just treated. we need to treat each other with respect and dignity. Some folks, they just forget that and treat their fellow soldiers, airmen, Marines, sailors, Coast Guardsmen. They treat them like dogs. And I don't particularly like that either. It gets you. And as a leader, that should get you. You want everybody to be treated with respect. And it would eat at me, eat at me, eat at me. And for years, I would have problems sleeping because I just can't turn off my mind, especially when I think of somebody being treated not well, or if they've had to be in a situation where they need help, and then my mind just starts racing. And I go to dark places, and it's not fun when you go to a dark place. And I really wish I would have sought help earlier. I did not seek help to talk through what I was feeling or what I was thinking until I was a Chief Master Sergeant. And it was about a year into when I was a Chief Master Sergeant. So the folks that are civilians out there that have never been in the military, the enlisted ranks, the E9 is that pay grade is a Chief Master Sergeant, Sergeant Major, Master Gunnery Sergeant, Master Chief in the Navy. It's the highest enlisted rank. And then from there.
And how many years had you had in service at this point?
When I sought help, I had 21 years in the service.
21 years, and you had never had any kind of mental or emotional support for what you'd experienced.
Right, exactly. And that's why I'm saying that going that far without talking to somebody, I should have never gone that far without talking to somebody, because I will be very, as one of my, another mentor that still serves down in SOCOM, he would say, I'm going to be very open kimono, just put it all out there on the line. It would not affect my work so much, but it would affect my home life with my family. It would affect my friends. I wasn't sleeping well. I would just wake up mad at the world, and I would hide that while I was at work. And then I would come home and I would just be mad to the point where there would be times where I never hit anybody, but I would hit myself, which is, there's something wrong when you do something like that, to the point where, like, oh my gosh, did I just give myself a black eye? Not like little love taps, but bad. So that it should have never, ever gotten to that point. So any veterans out there, there are so many things you can do to, get yourself mental help, physical help, all that other type of stuff. Talk to, counselors at work. There's different organizations you can talk to. Those that are no longer active duty and just veterans, go to your VFW, go to your American Legion. They have people that you can talk to. They can hook you up with the VA. They can get you help. And I feel that is so important. In fact, I feel that since I've been out of the military, I need to reacquaint myself with some of those organizations so I can get to the VA and, just get a checkup. I'm feeling great right now. I'm sleeping better because I was talking to people. My home life is amazing right now, but you know what? It doesn't hurt to get a checkup, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with that.
Michael, that part of your story, and this is so personal to me, is, to get help and to be honest. The military used to be a place where they strongly discouraged people to get mental health. And so many people carry that stigma with them of don't get mental health. It can impact, your future positions. And since then the stance has changed, and they realize people need to talk, people need cope, people need resiliency. And hopefully when senior people like yourself come forward and say, hey, I realized I had these problems, I got hope, it can help others. We are going to close this segment. The next author coming up, 24 authors in 12 hours, is Dirk Meyer-Hafer. He is part of Free Agent Press, a veteran-owned organization. Super excited to have Dirk on next. Michael, do you have any closing comments?
No, again, I would just like to thank you, all the veterans out there. Thank you. The wives, husbands, sons and daughters of veterans, anybody associated, just shake their hand, give them a hug. I know a lot of people aren't able to physically contact each other right now, but a text message or a fist bump or whatever you can do. And I want to say from the bottom of my heart, thank you for everybody. Also, thank you for your service, of course. So this has been amazing, and I hope we get to do it again.
Thank you, Michael.
All right. Thanks again.